your risk assessment tool that you created. So it's a 5-step process to analyze for a house of worship the risk that they may be exposed to, and just kind of walking through the risk and hazard itself, identifying that risk or hazard, the likelihood of it happening, the severity of the loss, the impact on ministry, and then the warning in advance. Talk about that and how you set those 5 up to be kind of a scorecard.
Sure. So this is all part of, ideally a house of worship will have a team in place, a safety, security team, risk management team, whatever you want to call it. And one of the tasks of the team is to kind of assess where the risks are out the house of worship. And so one way to go about doing that is for each risk that's identified, such as armed intruder, slip and fall, weather, fire, et cetera, is to use this tool to help prioritize those about what to kind of approach first. So like you mentioned, there are different elements to it, kind of with a 1 to 5 score for each element, 1 being the least concerning and 5 being the most. So it starts with likelihood. How likely is this episode or event to happen? 1 being not very likely, 5 very likely. So armed intruder, thankfully in this day and age, is still pretty unlikely to happen. Not that we don't need to be prepared for it, but it would get a lower score on the likelihood side. Then moving to the severity side, again 1 through 5, if this thing does happen, how severe are the consequences, and from a monetary perspective. So 1 being not as severe, 5 being very severe. So going back to the armed intruder example, that's going to be a 5 because that's a big event if that does happen. Then the next one being kind of the consequences or impact. So aside from monetary things, there are risks that if they come about, they impact the house of worship or the reputation of the organization itself. So things like a sexual abuse allegation, if that comes about, unfortunately, it's going to be in the media. There's going to be a spotlight focused on the organization and what they did about it. And so, for example, sexual abuse prevention on the consequences or impact score is high. It's a 5. And then warning. Warning just means how long do you have to get ready for something. So for a hurricane, for example, you'll know days in advance, theoretically, that the hurricane is approaching, whereas armed intruder, that threat is there right then. So 1 is a low score, hurricane, 5 is no warning, so immediate. Right. And then you add those elements up in the categories, and the higher scoring ones are ones that perhaps your team should approach first, and then work your way down the list. And we recommend, kind of guided by the resources that are available at churchmutual.com and ccia.com, including a number of assessment tools that we have on those websites for each particular area. For example, playgrounds, an assessment that'll walk you through the various hazards that are there.